This is Charleston's retirement coach, Brandon Bowen.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Most importantly, thanks for listening. This is Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. It's all powered by Bowen Wealth. You can get more when you visit bowenwealth.com, and you can find that and all the information in the show notes. My name is Mark Owens. Now, let's get to the show. Brandon, when you see names like Susie Orman or Kevin O'Leary or Dave Ramsey, what's your personal take on these financial gurus?
I would say that they've helped a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I do say they kind of have to paint with a broad brush.
Okay.
They're giving financial advice, but I can get in trouble for not doing my due diligence and follow up additional questions to really get all the context as a fiduciary.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of these people, they kind of give some, get out of debt. Well, that's good. That's good. Everyone should try that. So I feel like people come in or they'll have these quotes or I heard this on Dave or Susie or any of these people, and I always have to kind of, but there's a little more to this.
Right. They kind of toe the line between being a celebrity and like a financial advisor at the same time. So you got to kind of play.
Same thing with Jim Cramer. He's like throwing out stock advice. And I'm like, okay.
Was it you telling me, somebody was telling me that there's somebody that, and they have a blog or they have a podcast, whatever Jim Cramer says or suggests, they do the complete opposite.
Oh, God.
And they follow it.
And
it's
they're killing it?
Yes.
Oh.
And he was like, this week, Jim Cramer said, buy this. So we bought this and we're doing much better.
Oh, my gosh.
So there's a lot of these talking heads that are kind of screaming at you as Jim Cramer does or offering advice. And, to each their own, they're very successful in their field. There's a financial author. His name was David McKnight. And talking about the Ramseys and the Ormans, he says kind of what you did. Their approach to income planning is very paint by numbers, kind of one size fits all. So talk to me about what you do. Obviously, you're a celebrity locally, but nationally. Yeah, I just called you a celebrity, Brandon Bowen.
Radio don't do the opposite of what I say.
but tell me your approach when it comes to income planning.
When people do come in and they're like, talking to Dave Ramsey or whatever, I like to say, hey, I like his first 3 steps, and I believe everybody probably would love to be debt free with millions in the bank. Okay. I mean, that's a given.
That's a goal. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's still numerous risks that you've got to consider. And that's really where my planning comes in, where we take a look at, where are you now? And a lot of people that do pick up the phone and call, they've done a good job. They've really knocked out most all of their debt. They might just have a house payment, with a nice low interest rate here. They've got, 500, maybe $1 million or 1.5 million saved. They've done all of these things wonderfully, but there's still something, deep inside, like they still have some of these concerns of like, what if I run out of money?
Yeah.
And so we start talking through, it's because you don't have a retirement plan. That's different than what a lot of these people are talking about. They're talking about back in that accumulation stage, the growth stage of like, how do we grow money? How do we, reduce our debt, that kind of stuff. But, retirement planning, there's a lot lacking out there. And so that's where really you need someone to come in and, and hold your hand and walk with you through these retirement years, these next 20 to 30 years. I would say there's 3 areas that we would focus in on. And I bet you've got some of these same fears or concerns. The first, like I just said, is longevity. Are we going to run out of money? If we get blessed with 30 years of life, and the statistics are, if you're both 60, that one of you is going to make it to 90.
Yeah.
Okay. 50% chance. So, that begs the question, are you going to be spending with confidence in retirement, knowing that, I might live or my spouse might live to 90, and we don't want to be destitute and broke and, and having to move back in with the kids, at some point there. So,
and still the number one fear for adults in retirement, running out of money.
Yes, the number one fear. And so maybe you've got $2 million saved or whatever that number is. But a lot of people say, well, Brandon, I don't want to spend too little either. I don't want to spend too much or too little, right? What's the smart amount that we should be spending here? And a lot of people just say if they follow some of these other advice, they might be just telling them only spend your interest that the portfolio makes each year. Okay. Well, the problem with that is what if the portfolio doesn't make anything for a couple years? Are you cutting out your spending? Are you not going out to eat or traveling? No, the answer is no. Right. So it's kind of hard to follow some of those rules. So we need to address your longevity risk. Are we spending the right amount of money with confidence? Secondly, I would say your tax risk. A lot of these advice, if they just say, okay, well, throw money into your IRAs and 401ks, and now you get to retirement, you've got this big tax bomb, okay, that you're at the risk of future tax increases. If taxes go up in the future, and let's say you get to 73 when your required minimum distributions, your RMDs, are forced upon you, what if we're in a higher tax bracket at that point?
Which
we might be. Yes.
Reality.
Well, I think the only saving grace here is this Doge, with all this cutting fraud and waste and abuse, and with some of these problems that the federal government of budget shortfalls. Hopefully we can kind of get ahead of things. But so once you realize this, then a lot of people, they're like kind of going, Brandon, I've got all of my money is tax deferred, and I'm seeing how, the government is waiting. They've got me in their crosshairs here as far as taxes. They don't like that I've been able to avoid and defer taxes for so long, right? So we're now looking at Roth conversions. How are ways that we can pull our income most tax efficiently? And if you've got everything in tax deferred status, there's not much we can do, like every withdrawal you make is taxable. The better strategy, the better solution is I like seeing my clients with all three tax statuses to choose from. So your tax risk, we've got to look at that and address those things. And then the last one here, and this one, is tricky, and that's called the sequence of return risk. So that is, in what order do we make or lose money in the stock market? Okay. It's the sequence of our returns of the portfolio. And so the secret here is, during your working years, it didn't matter so much as far as what years you made money or lost money. If you were putting in money consistently, dollar cost averaging into the market, it didn't matter, as far as like if the markets went down, well, now you're buying on sale. So that's even better. We know over those 30 years, the markets did what it did, and you now have what you have. But now when you start pulling money out of this portfolio, when you start having a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% drawdown, whatever we're able to set up, well, now it totally matters if we have a crash your very first year of retirement. I mean, that's the worst scenario is what if you would have retired back in 06 or 07, right before that last major 2008 crash. Maybe you got a fresh reminder of it in 2022 because the stock market, the S&P 500 and bonds, both of them went down about, 20 to 25%. So your 60-40 portfolio probably scared the fool out of you.
Yeah.
You were probably down 18%, 16%. And you were like, wait a second, I thought I was balanced here. And I just retired, but luckily in 23, the markets came back if you didn't, freak out and go to cash and things. So that sequence of return, we've got to prepare for if we have an extended sell-off, bear market, or even a crash. We know that you'll probably have one or two major market crashes during retirement, during these withdrawal years when we are pulling money out of this. Let me give you a quick client story so I can think of specifically these clients here. They had done a tremendous job, retired. They had an advisor. They were from Atlanta. They had an advisor in Atlanta, and they had saved $5 million. Okay. They came in and I was like, guys, first off, time out. First off,
nice job.
Great job. I can tell that you've stayed disciplined your whole working career. You've made good money. You've put a lot of it aside. You've done a great job. The problem was all of that $5 million, all of it was tax deferred. Okay. It was they had 2 IRAs. So they had done a great job, but it was just all a ticking tax bomb. And so that was the first problem. The second problem is their advisor, he was like almost 80 years old. No offense to old advisors, but he just would not let them withdraw like any of their money, and he would argue and all this stuff when they needed like 15,000. I'm talking, Mark, right? We need 15,000. He would go, well, I don't, and he's like, gosh, I feel like it's, just why is he so on top of it? It's our money, number one. And I feel like we should be able to enjoy it here. We've worked for this to get to this point. Now it's like we can't even, pull out any of our money. Right. So they did not have an income plan nor a tax plan. Okay. And so that's what we focused in on for them is looking at, okay, first they had to, of course, thank him for his service and fired that advisor. And they came over to me and we put together that income plan. Okay. I showed them, gosh, guys, how much do you even need? Cause this portfolio, we could generate a tremendous amount of income. And in fact, we did do a lot of income. And a year into it, I've told you this before, Mark, a year into this retirement, they called me and they said, can you turn down the income? It's like, we're drowning. We're drowning here. We just, like
what a great problem to have.
Yes. They were like, Brandon, and they had taken like 10 trips. They had gone all over the place. They're doing all the stuff. He had enlisted into culinary school. Okay. Graduated. So they were like in Italy, France. He's doing all these restaurants. It's, amazing, right? So they're doing exactly what they wanted to do now at this point. But they were like, we can't even spend all this income. Let's turn it down and just kind of let it roll over and continue to stay in the plan. So it was so good there. And then the taxes, right? We're addressing those taxes now that, they've quit working. We're looking at these Roth conversions. Okay, because of the Trump tax cuts here, we need to be taking advantage of those while we still have them. So we're doing Roth conversions, tremendous income, and they are living the retirement that I want, when I get there.
It's my retirement.
Yes, it's beautiful. So if you're listening and you're like, okay, I've got those same concerns of longevity, taxes. I hate taxes. How can we make sure that we're staying legal, staying out of jail, but we don't want to give the government one penny more than we have to? Sequence of return. Are we concerned about, are we maybe still a bit too aggressive here? Even now with this, sell-off that we're having here in 2025, right? If this is going down a little bit too much for your comfort, then you might need a review here on your risk, on your portfolio. So if you've saved $500,000 or more and are age 55 or above, you've got to get an income plan review. That's where we'll sit down here. You bring in everything that you've done, your statements, things like that. I've got a 2-page, it's a simple 2-page, data form that we'll send to you here. You can fill that out before the meeting, but then just bring in your statements and I'll give you an income plan review. We'll address this. We'll address your longevity risk, tax risk, sequence of return risk, all of those things here. And I'll show you, hey, if I had the keys to the car, if I was your trusted advisor, then here's what we would do. And you might love it. You might hate it. You might be somewhere in the middle, but at least you're getting the second opinion here and you're doing the work that needs to be done at this point. So pick up the phone, give Tanya, my assistant, she's standing by right now, give her a call or a text. The number's 843-890-2400. Again, 843-890-2400. And you can text the word income, 2 words, income plan.
Perfect.
Income plan. And Tanya will know exactly what you're looking for. And she'll, find out if now's a good time to talk or if you want to talk on Monday, and we'll get you scheduled on our calendar. 843-890-2400.
And this also goes for those adults looking for that second opinion. Like you said, with a couple that just felt like something was off. So that income plan conversation, perfect. If somebody's feeling like maybe there's some opportunities or maybe something just doesn't feel right with my current advisor.
Absolutely, Mark. Yeah, we would love to sit down with you.
843-890-2400. Again, 843-890-2400. You can call, you can text the word income plan. Tanya will know exactly what you're looking for to get you set up to sit down with Brandon and the team at Bowen Wealth. Again, bowenwealth.com or 843-890-2400. Brandon, got a question for you.
Okay.
Did you get it?
What? Did I get what?
Did you get it? I got it. Did you get it?
I don't know.
Did you get the text?
Probably.
I got the text. Did you get the text?
I get a lot of texts.
Did you get the scam text?
A lot of scam texts.
The nationwide scam text.
What
for everybody saying you are late on your unpaid toll. You now have to pay a fine. Click this link. Make sure you go pay the fine. We're coming after you. Did you get it?
Yes, I did. I did not know that was nationwide, but I'm sitting here, I'm getting the text because you got it. I've gotten it for like a few weeks in a row, and I'm like, dang it, did I? I know I was in Georgia, and then I was in Florida. Shoot, did I accidentally get in the HOV lane? Mm-hmm. Yes, and I was sitting there thinking, I was like, well, I'm just going to ignore it, and if they come get me, I don't. So yes, I got it.
They're going to come get me on a $6 toll fine.
Right, it's $5.
I think everybody got it. My mom, and thank God my mom called me. She's at that age now where unfortunately scams are real, and they're worded right and they look right. And she called me and she's like, honey, is this? Yes, Mom, don't click anything.
I know.
Don't do anything.
Because I don't think it was, I don't think there was any grammar that was wrong. I mean, it looked like, and then there was a link here to view the photo. I was like, shoot. And I was like, should I click it? But I didn't. I didn't click it.
Yep. See, and then mine, the one of the reasons I knew as well is because the click this link, and it was like HTTP X4798Q ampersand. I was like, okay, something doesn't feel right on this one. But I mean, let's be honest. Brandon, this is something that you deal with. I mean, scams are real. They're going, like I just said, they're going after the boomers, the older generation that's maybe not as good as technology as the kids, as the grandkids. So let's talk about that. Like when someone brings you their portfolio for a review, what are some of the things that stick out? Because in these texts, we noticed that the website was wrong, or that grammatically it's not correct, or something just doesn't feel right. There's this urgency to it, to these scam texts. But for you, when you look at a portfolio, what really sticks out as, okay, this is something we need to take a look at?
So this is really hard because, you might see a well-known name at the top, Wells Fargo Advisors or Merrill Lynch or what, well, surely, I mean, this is all good stuff that I'm in, I mean, like you think I've known them for a long time, right? I know they're taking
known
care
nationwide,
of me.
just like this toll text.
They're nationwide, right? Yeah. So I had some clients. Let me start with this story here. Clients from Somerville. They were in their first year of retirement, but they had no income plan, and there was just a little more volatility than they were comfortable with.
Yeah.
Yes. Than they were wanting. So they were like, you know what, let's call Brandon. We listen to him every week. And so they came in, brought in their statements. And they had about $1 million with Edward Jones. No offense to Edward Jones Advisors. I've seen some statements and portfolios that are good with Edward Jones and then this one. And so they were invested in that $1 million was invested in 5 growth funds or American funds. And so these mutual funds that American Funds puts out there, it's just classic for Edward Jones Advisors for some reason. But so I analyzed this portfolio for them, and we started to see several things. I started to show them. Okay. And this might be true of your portfolio. Okay. You listening. So the first was I uncovered the fees and expense ratios. Okay. The other problem is they say, hey, my advisor doesn't charge us a fee. They only charge us $40 a year. And I'm like, wait a second. You don't think you pay an advisor fee? They're like, nope, I don't pay an advisor fee. Well, if you're thinking that right now, listening to me, then you've got to pick up the phone, right? Because where do they make their money? Who's paying them? You don't even know who's paying them.
Yep.
And it's probably the stuff they're putting you in. Okay. Where all these big front end loads, that they might be paying a 6% commission to these advisors for picking these costly funds for them. And then you've got these expense ratios of around 1, maybe 0.5% to 1%. I've seen even like 1.3% on some of these mutual fund expense ratios. Okay, this is crazy. That's crazy, especially knowing what's available out there these days. Right. With these ultra low cost exchange traded funds, ETFs. Okay. So we've got to, take a look at those excessive fees and hidden costs. Like I just said, with these clients here, there was a lack of diversity as well, right? All 5 of those, they were just different slight variations, but they were all growth stock funds there. So they had small cap, mid cap, large cap, technology, emerging
and that's a problem with diversity, because we think to have a diversified portfolio, I'm going to sprinkle some here, some there, some there, some there. All right, I'm good. A little bit more than that.
Yeah. You think you've got, this, but all of those funds might be holding the same stocks.
Yeah. Okay.
So you've got to get stuff. And so here's the problem is if the market starts going down, let's say the tech sector starts crashing, well, then, you've got to, how can we make adjustments? Well, if everything is holding that stuff there, then you're in trouble. The whole thing is going down. Your portfolio is only going to succeed when the market goes in one direction. You've got to have a portfolio that is diversified, that is thoughtful, that has different timelines associated with it. Like, okay, this money here, we're going to start enjoying that money here now. Okay, so it needs to be out of the market. It needs to be out of that storm, the potential storm out there. It needs to be protected. It needs to have guardrails up on it, one-way valves where it can only go up, when it's paying nice income to you. Then you have another bucket over there that's earmarked for maybe in 3 to 5 years, we're going to touch that money. And then maybe a third bucket that's 5+ years down the road, right?
Right.
So that's how we start looking at that and addressing your diversity DEI. Am I a DEI advisor now? That's pretty good. Okay. We also want to look at are there any outdated or irrelevant investments? Okay. And what I would say they're outdated, I would probably put, variable annuities in this category, okay? Because they were big back in, they started in the 1960s, but a lot of advisors would throw people in these variable annuities and just, you're getting killed in fees. I mean, they average around 3 to 4% per year in fees. Okay. You're in the stock market, so you've got all this volatility. And I'm like, okay, if you're okay being in the stock market, well, let's just go to the stock market and cut out all these insurance companies and all these fees. Let's just do something super low cost, right? But then, some of these variable annuities also pay income. Well, variable annuities pay the lowest income out of the 4 types of annuities that are out there. So that's not even the best income strategy, I believe. So I say variable annuities are outdated. Okay. They're good for the advisor that puts you in them, but they are outdated. I believe there's better ways if you want growth in the market or if you want income. I think there's better, more up-to-date ways and strategies to do that. And so then the last thing I would say is your portfolio aligned with your risk tolerance? And I see that a lot, especially with how the market has had this nice run up over the last, 12 years, really. The stock market has just gone up and up. And there's been a couple little drops like COVID or in 2022 and stuff, but it's gone on a great tear, so you might be way out of line where your stock and your growth investments, have gone way up. And if you had anything defensive, it might just still be kind of struggling a little bit there. So we've got to look and make sure if you're now right on retirement's doorstep, or if you've already retired, we've got to make sure that your portfolio is aligned with that risk tolerance there. So if these are some of the things that, you've been wondering, okay, does my portfolio have some of these fees and hidden costs? And is it a little overweight in certain sectors of the market where might not have that diversification? Or am I outdated investments? Are there new things, new technology with all this AI that's out there? How has that impacted our industry? And the answer is tremendously. So pick up the phone. I want to provide for you. You deserve a complimentary portfolio and risk review. That's where I want you to come in, bring your statements, and then I'll take those and go to work with my team. And then we'll set up a second meeting where you come in and I'll show you all of our findings. We'll walk through it and I'll tell you what you're doing that's good. Nobody wants to be beat up and, hit over the head with you're doing terrible, all this stuff. So there is usually several things that you're doing well, and I'll point that out. Okay. So I'll say, okay, I love how he or she is doing this for you,
right?
Or how you've done that. If you're doing it yourself, I love how you've done this right here, but there's probably going to be some areas, maybe many areas or maybe the whole thing that really needs to be improved. Okay. And it starts with this portfolio and risk review. So if you've saved $500,000 or more and are age 60 or above, pick up the phone right now. I've got Tanya, my assistant, standing by right now. So the number is, go ahead and call it 843-890-2400. And if you want to text, just text the words portfolio review or portfolio or something. 843-890-2400.
Thanks for listening to Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. To learn more, visit bowenwealth.com and join Brandon for his radio show, Charleston's Retirement Coach, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 94.3 WSC.
Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Brandon Bowen is licensed in your state, please call 843-203-2030. J. Brandon Bowen is an investment advisor representative of Bowen Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. J. Brandon Bowen is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Bowen Wealth, LLC, insurance licensed in South Carolina. Market Guard is a registered investment advisor with the SEC and provides model portfolios only to Impact Partnership Wealth. Market Guard makes no implied warranties or representations and is not liable for any data presented.